Welcome to this episode of our Say Hello to Joe podcast, brought to you by Century Ford and Century Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Mount Airy, Maryland. Please make sure you like this podcast and leave a review if you will. Proud to be joined this afternoon with Brian Gerald. Brian is the general sales manager at our Ford store, but Brian's background is used vehicles. Brian handles most of our used vehicle inventory as far as acquisition, selling, reconditioning, and used cars is a real hot topic right now in the auto industry with the shortage in new vehicles that has been happening over the last 8 to 10 months. Used cars are at a premium because you can't get new vehicles. We got to have something.
Very tough.
We got to have something to sell, so it's driven up the cost of used vehicles and used vehicle inventory. It's highly competitive because everybody, not just our dealership, but every dealership is trying to get it. And, one of the things that we've been buying a lot of vehicles from customers off the street. We've been advertising, we buy cars. And, one of the things that a lot of people ask us all the time is, what goes into determining the value of a vehicle, and I thought it would be good to have you walk our audience through that. So take it away.
Well, the biggest thing is in used cars is reconditioning. I mean, that's where it all starts and that's where it all ends. But as soon as a customer comes in, whether it's a trade or whether it's an outright buy, we go out and walk around the car. I mean, find out the condition of the car and what we're going to have to spend on reconditioning the car. And walk around the car, chips, dents, scratches. We run a Carfax on every car, as we do with every car we sell. So it's mainly the reconditioning. And then when you sit down in the computer, you look at all the book values. You look at the Kelley Blue books. You look at the market value. You look at the auction values. And that's how you determine a number on the car. But the main thing is the condition of the car. And that goes along with selling the car. What goes into selling the car? Reconditioning. What it takes for a Maryland State inspection. A big thing with Ford is the Ford Advantage program. I mean, they've extended that where it's not just a certified program for Fords only. Now they have a program for any other maker model. So that's really extended our opportunity to certify a car with a warranty behind it and the reconditioning that it goes through, the check system that it goes through. So that's a big thing with used cars right now, especially with the way the market is. The market's low, so there's a lot of put anything out on the front line that sells. We don't do that. We recondition it the way we do with the certification, and we stand behind it 100%. So that's a big thing as far as how we obtain the car, what we do with it. It all has to do with the reconditioning of the car. The pricing takes care of itself as far as the computers and what book values you use to determine that. So.
Yeah, and that's for our audience. I mean, the state of Maryland has a very rigorous Maryland State inspection. And the other thing is that where we're located here in Mount Airy, Maryland, we're in a small town community and very active in the community. And I stress to both of our dealerships that the used vehicles that we sell on our lot are going to be nice. And if our Maryland State inspector comes to us or comes to Brian and says, hey, these tires pass inspection, but they're close. What do we tell them? Put a new set of tires on it, because it's just not worth it. It's not worth it for somebody coming back in 6,000 miles and saying, man, I got to replace my tires. So we go that extra step. We sell some older vehicles, some higher mileage vehicles, but we make sure that they're right before we put them out on our lot. And I guess the other thing is Brian and I have both been in this industry for close to 40 years, and we've seen a lot of things, and I've never seen anything like what we've seen this past year. Everybody says, what's a used car worth? And we have a very sophisticated software program that we use that helps us in the acquisition of vehicles. It's an appraisal software tool, and it monitors every vehicle that's on the internet. From our lot, we can go 100 miles out, 1,000 miles, all the way across the country. And the bottom line is a used car is worth what you can get for it. I mean, from both a customer standpoint and from a dealership standpoint. I mean, we have seen people, God, when was it? Probably back in April and May, Brian, people were coming in here with vehicles that were 2 years old with 20,000 miles on them,
6 months old,
and getting the same amount of money that
they paid for it.
They paid for it when it was new.
More than sticker.
And it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So, you know, we buy cars. We will, I mean, if, you know, I've told people that I think what we're going through is very similar to the housing industry right now, but with a caveat. So if somebody sells their house for $80,000 more than what it should sell for, and then they go out and buy another house, they have to pay $80,000 more than what that house is worth. So basically, it's a wash. Vehicles are a little different. I mean, if you have a trade-in and you're getting top dollar for it, and you have to buy a new vehicle, you know, new vehicle prices are higher than they normally would be. But if you have, there's a lot of people out there, my age, that have, you know, people that have multiple vehicles that maybe don't use one of their vehicles, where they don't need to replace it, they just need to sell it. You know, they can probably get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more for the vehicle in normal times, because that's how the demand has driven up the pricing.
And we've seen a lot of that. A lot of people coming in and selling their cars outright just because they know they can get more money for it, and they're basically cashing out. It's like cashing out an IRA. They've had an investment in their car, and they're getting top dollar for it right now, so I might as well go cash it out if I got 2 other cars. I'm really not using it. We see a lot of that today. And just kind of what Joe said, that if you're trading in a car, and that's, you know, in our market and what we've said for years, the best way to get a good car is to trade it. So that's the way we can give the customer the most money for the car. And then again, in this market, the way it is, you can give them more for the car because they're paying a little bit more for the new cars than they used to, and it's leveling out. Plus you get the tax credit in Maryland, which helps out a lot. So not only that you're getting an extra value for your car, but you're getting more tax credit, because the higher the value of the car, the higher the tax credit you get. So it's a win-win situation. So
yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna touch on that. You know, if somebody has a pre-owned vehicle that they want to sell, or they're thinking about trading it in, and let's just say, for argument's sakes, it's worth $40,000, and I appraise it for $40,000, and you take it to CarMax for $40,000. But let's say you're going to trade that vehicle in here, so CarMax's figure would be $40,000, but our figure really works out to be $42,400, because you get 6% of the $40,000 as a tax reduction. And I've seen so many people come in here over the years and with their chest muscles flexed out and say, CarMax gave me $300 more for my car than you did. And I say, well, you just cost yourself $2,000 in tax credit, so you lost $1,700 instead of thinking you made $300.
Which affects the amount of money you're financing on the car you're buying.
So that's our public service announcement for today. Make sure you take advantage of the tax credit, trading your vehicle instead of just selling it. But you know, the crazy thing about the used car market this year is that it's crazy everywhere. There's a area of competition that we've never seen before. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was laughing when I started in this business 40 years ago. I remember my first training session that I was in, and a guy was telling me about used cars. He says, used cars aren't a good investment because, you know, you lose so much of your value of the vehicles. He says, you know, if cars were a good investment, they'd be in bank vaults everywhere. And now, 40 years later, we're running through this year where cars are a good investment. You know, if you can buy a car 2 years ago, drive it for 20,000 miles, and get a similar amount of money today than what you paid for it new, I'd say that's not a bad deal.
And you've used it for 2 years.
And you've used it for 2 years. So, well, Brian, what else do you have to share?
Well, that's the big thing right now. It's inventory is light, but you know, the more cars we're getting in now, the new cars are starting to roll in. We're starting to get some more cars in. We're starting to get some really nice trades, and we've got some really nice low model cars on the lot also going into this Black Friday sales event. That it's, you know, we've got a good amount of cars coming in. We're getting them inspected, getting them detailed. That's the other point, is not only is it the condition of the car as far as mechanically, but we have a very detailed reconditioning company that really just tears the car down and redoes it and comes out shining brand new. Buff it, wax it, clean it, steam clean the engine, shampoo the interior, just wheels, tires. It's not just a wash and wax and put it outside anymore. It's about a 2-day process to do reconditioning on a car to make it look very, very nice. And it is very nice. It's got a nice clean cut, take care of the scratches, buff out the scratches, all that kind of stuff goes into reconditioning. It's not just mechanical, it's also surface is where the car looks. So.
All right. Well, so if you're viewing this podcast and you're considering maybe selling your vehicle, you can go right to our Century Buys Cars website, and you can value your trade right there, and you can contact us, and we will be happy to help you out.
Walk you through it.
Yep. So I'd like to thank Brian for joining me. I'd like
you.
to thank you for viewing this podcast, brought to you by Century Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram of Mount Airy. You can view us on all the sites, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or you can contact me directly at sayhellotojoe.com. Please leave a review, leave your comments, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.